I'm here in my kitchen tonight. I know we're all so busy, and a lot of times it's easier, especially during the week, just to, pick up something quick, fast food or something for dinner. But I really love to cook and to bake, and I really try to, have like a healthy, variety of food for my family to have at dinner time. It's really important for us that, all three of us sit down for dinner, even James, and we're all eating something healthy. But it's just so hard sometimes to kind of arrange it all, whether you're busy taking care of your kid at home or you're working full time, or you're trying to juggle both. Like, all of us are busy. Like, that's just how life is these days. All of us are so busy. But it really helps me just to kind of have a game plan, especially for James, because he's allergic to so many things. Being able to have foods that I know that he can eat, that are safe, and also provide him a well-rounded nutrition is really helpful to me. So my trick for, and I was telling a bunch of my friends at Bunko the other week, that makes it easy for babies is in the freezer I have like a bag of like vegetables for him, and like a bag of more starchy vegetables like potatoes or butternut squash, or really any kind of squash, butternut squash, acorn squash, spaghetti squash, potatoes, sweet potatoes, that kind of thing. Vegetables like carrots or sweet potatoes, like carrots or peas or green beans or asparagus, like all that gets lumped into his veggies. And then so we have like 3 different bags here, all different things, but and then one contains all his meat and protein. So that might be steak or chicken or fish or turkey or lamb or just whatever have you. So during the week we usually pull out to make James a dinner if I'm not making a James friendly dinner, because honestly sometimes I don't have time on a weeknight. Well, that's a lot of weeknights to make James like a full rounded healthy vegan meal, or he eats meat, so it's not vegan, but anyway, dairy free, egg free, all that. Sometimes Dan and I just have to eat a pizza because that's how life is. I'm sure a lot of y'all can raise your hands and say, yeah, we get a takeout pizza or put a frozen pizza in the oven. My family likes to make a flatbread pizza, and it takes like 10 minutes. But anyway, meal prepping for James is awesome. And so every night that I actually cook, I try to make a little extra and freeze for James, or or sometimes to put in our fridge for leftovers for us, because leftovers are great. It's a healthy meal and it saves a lot of time. So tonight I'm making grilled steak for us. It's going to be James friendly, just grilled steak, a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, what have you. So James can have that. There'll probably be a little bit of leftovers for us or for him. Honestly, I'm not cooking a ton of the steak, so most of the leftovers will probably go to James. I'll freeze like little portion-sized bags for him, and then that makes it really easy. But I'm cooking a ton of potatoes tonight, and I'll try to swap the camera around and see if that'll let y'all see. Yeah, so y'all can see my meal prep. So I have like a whole bag of potatoes. I planned to cook potatoes tonight, but I had a whole bag of them, and they were starting to turn. Like, they weren't bad, but you know how potatoes sometimes start to have like a little growth on them, and they're like, I need to go ahead and cook potatoes before they all go bad. So a great way to deal with that, if your potatoes are kind of starting to turn, is just peel them. Like, peel them, get rid of any growths, and get rid of like any bad spots in them, cut them out. And so just as a quick cleanup for me, a lot of times I like to just, peel them, even sometimes on top of the potato bag, and I can lift the whole thing up and throw it in the trash. So that's done. I peeled the potatoes. And another trick that I like is just rinsing them all off in the colander. That gets rid of all the dirt and everything, rinses them off, instead of just another yeast instead of using it for pasta. It drains it, so it's super simple, just to clean them all up after peeling them. This also works great if you're doing like mashed potatoes. So you just like boil them after that, and you can mash them all up. So that's a great trick. Today I'm doing roasted potatoes because James really has a hard time feeding himself mashed potatoes, and he really isn't a huge fan of the texture yet. But James loves baked potatoes, and he also loves roasted potatoes. So that's what I'm doing tonight, is roasted potatoes. I'm just cooking up a whole bunch, and then I'm going to set some aside for James and freeze them in little portion sizes. And then some leftovers I'll keep for us, maybe to have tomorrow, the next day, to kind of make things simple. So I've peeled them, I've washed and drained them, and now I'm cutting them up into bite-sized bite-sized pieces. I love the chef's knife. That makes it really easy, and I feel like there's less risk of chopping my finger off, like with the little paring knife or something. The chef knife just makes it so easy to chop them off. I really try to avoid any kind of incidents in the kitchen, and keep your fingers away from knives too is super helpful. So just little bite-sized pieces, kind of like cubes. They don't have to be perfect. I'm not running a 5-star restaurant here or anything. As long as they're similar size, they cook evenly. So appearance really isn't all that important, but just similar size, so they cooked evenly, bite-sized pieces. And then once they're cooked, we usually chop them up a little bit more just to make them easier for James to eat. So once you've chopped up the potatoes into the little bite-sized pieces, similar-ish size, just put them in a baking dish. I usually use a glass baking dish, but if you have like a metal pan or something, that works too, or a Corningware or just whatever. But it depends on how many potatoes you're doing, but usually if you just kind of make it, of course I have a ton more potatoes to chop up. I'm probably going to end up baking 2 dishes at once tonight because I have a lot. So basically, just kind of like fill the whole pan. So I'm kind of like pushing it to the side so that I have room for more potatoes here. So you don't have to like stack them on top of each other. They'll actually bake a little bit better this way if you're just roasting them, because you have to allow for airflow circulation and allow them to crisp and everything. Otherwise, if you just pile them on top of each other, they'll like steam too much. So after you've gotten all your potatoes, I like to drizzle with a little bit of olive oil. Also, James friendly, dairy free. Olive oil is super heart healthy. This one I actually got from Trader Joe's. I love Trader Joe's. We got one in Birmingham a few years ago. They have some great stuff at fabulous prices. But whenever I pick olive oil, I try to look for one where you can see the lot number on it and see where it was made, because if you can see the country or countries of origin and like the lot, that kind of shows like what batch it was picked from, there's a lot more, I guess, not just the credibility, but there's, you can kind of like track where it's made, because I know there's been like a thing of like adulterated olive oil and like diluted and whatnot. And if you can kind of be like, okay, well, this is where the olive oil came from, this is the batch and harvest it was picked from, you're a lot more likely to get a really good olive oil that's not been adulterated by other oils, and that's a lot healthier. So we've got our olive oil. So I usually just drizzle a little bit of olive oil over the top, and of course I'll have to add more potatoes to my pan, but nothing too fancy. But just drizzle a little bit. You don't even have to measure, just a few tablespoons or so. And then I also like to do salt and pepper, and I like to do freshly ground pepper. I just like it a little bit better, but any kind of pepper works. I like to do salt and pepper, and I also like to add some herbs to them as well to give them a little bit of extra kick, and it's also super healthy. So rosemary and thyme are my preferred for potatoes. They work great on both regular potatoes and sweet potatoes. Oregano is also a great choice. Sometimes herbs de Provence, which is a really great mixture of several different types of herbs. It's one of my favorite herb blends, herbs de Provence, that and Italian herbs. But it has basil, rosemary, thyme, parsley, marjoram, lavender, tarragon, and fennel seed. I really love using this on lamb. That and Dijon mustard is like fabulous. But anyway, I usually keep it a little bit simpler for potatoes, even if you just want to use salt and pepper. I mean, a lot of households, Idaho potatoes, olive oil, salt, and pepper. Like simple ingredients most people have on hand. It's a great way to kind of like meal prep. So just sprinkle, to taste. It's not, doesn't have to be scientific or anything. I don't always measure when I'm actually cooking, although that's very important for baking. Measuring exactly and sometimes using a scale are important for baking, but cooking, you can just sometimes eyeball it. And it's a lot less stressful. You don't always have to have a recipe if you just kind of know a few basics, and that can make things easier, for you to do. So I usually just toss with my hands after, seasoning to taste, and then pop in the oven, which I'll probably do with a couple of these trays in a minute once I finish chopping my potatoes. But 425 for about 30 minutes, we'll roast your potatoes pretty well, make them crisp on the outside and kind of soft and tender on the inside. And you can always check and bake them longer if you need to. If you want to cook them on a lower temperature, say like you're doing some other things, like 350 or 375 for like an hour, to 15 minutes, sometimes hour and a half, kind of works too. But but usually, the higher temperature for 30, 35 minutes works pretty well. And then not only, did the potatoes get soft, but they're also, a little crispy on the outside, and they a little bit more resemble French fries, which, a lot of kids, love French fries. And this is not quite the same thing, but a lot healthier, oven roasted. You do get a lot of flavoring from any of the seasonings you want to add, and the olive oil is super healthy too. But oven baked potatoes are just a great alternative to French fries, and that's really kid friendly. Even if your kids are kind of like, hey, I don't know about those weird herbs on there. If you just put salt and pepper on there, or even just salt, I can't think of many kids that wouldn't want to try that. And so this will, be a great addition, to our meal. Having in the grilled steak with this, and put salt and pepper and maybe some herbs on that. I'm going to grill it, and James can have that too. He just loves steak. He's a carnivore, this kid, but he really loves his potatoes too. And being able to kind of like meal prep like this, and make a whole pound of potatoes at once, which I'm doing right now, will make my week a whole lot simpler. Being able to either have a little bit of leftovers for all three of us one day, or I'll probably make 3 to 4, portion sizes for James to have on those days when you're just like, don't have time to do anything. You've got to feed the kid. It's so helpful to either, freeze meals, for your whole family, or even freeze meals just for your kids. Because I know, just talking to a lot of my friends, a lot of times, the kids get, hungry early, or, before you've made dinner, or, before you really have everything ready. And just to have something that, okay, well, I can go ahead and feed them this. It's a healthy, balanced meal. They're going to love it. And then I can kind of finish what I'm cooking and save the leftovers for them to have tomorrow. That at least really helps me out between, caring for James all day, running my own business, working in the pharmacy, helping my husband. We all have a ton of stuff going on in life, and trying to balance, things that, you love doing, and taking care of your family and the house, and making sure everyone's fed and well cared for. It can be a tricky balance sometimes, but since I just, I love cooking, I love, trying new things, but also trying to make things simple for our lifestyle. And I feel like that's a need that so many of us have too. So I hope you enjoyed the little tips I shared tonight, and that, this might be a recipe that could become a quick go-to for y'all as well. Even if you're not meal prepping, even if you just have, a few potatoes you want to cut up and throw in the oven, and 30 minutes later they're ready while they're cooking, that 30 minutes you could do something else. Like cook your meat, or, cook some other kind of side, or play with your kids. So I hope y'all enjoyed and would like that recipe. I've had several friends ask me for recipes recently, so I was thinking, why not share one that could be simple and yummy go-to for the whole family. So I hope y'all enjoy. If this is something that y'all decide that you like and love, just please let me know if you'd like me to share more cooking tips. That's just something that I'm passionate about, is trying new recipes and also making them family friendly. So if you'd like me to share more, I'd love that, and just let me know. Y'all enjoy the rest of your evening, and enjoy your meal with your family.